All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Hope you're all excited for the stream, and maybe you got to catch a little bit of Ryan's stream. I certainly caught the end of it. It was really cool. It looked like what you all were building, some kind of natural phenomena using code. How cool is that? Yeah, so let's get our slides going. The goal of this workshop is we're really going to try something a little bit new, and that's going to be live coding with the audience. Okay, so we're going to get you set up so that you can actually be coding with Gemini Code Assist, which is a lot like other AI-assisted coding products, AI agent products, but it gives you a really good access to the Gemini model, which is specifically very good for coding. Hi there, Lily. Thank you so much for sending a message. It really helps when people send a message to make sure that I'm not talking into the void, because sometimes you could press mute or forget to push the live button. And yeah, it's really good to hear from you all. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to give you all a brief schedule for today. We're going to start with a setup checklist, and we're going to actually get set up in terms of installing all the software that we need and making sure we have the right accounts. You're going to need a Google account. It doesn't need to be paid or anything, just a free personal Google account is all you'll need. And you'll need a GitHub account, okay? So make sure you have those two accounts. And then we're going to talk about AI as a pair programmer and what the skills that you all can use and tips and tricks you can use to make sure that AI can be a really good coder for you. All right, so we're going to make sure to talk about that. And then we'll talk about, and prompting effectively, really. And then we'll talk about what we call a MCP, or Model Context Protocol. This is where GitHub is going to be connected into our Gemini Code Assist, and we're going to be able to see our repositories, push and create new repositories. And then we're going to talk about a concept that a lot of people know a little bit about, which is called iteration and modern dev flow. So how can you take an idea that you have for a change to your project and update your project on GitHub in a really more professional way, right? So we're going to explore a few concepts there too. And so, yeah, of course, then we'll go live coding and we'll get started. But first, I wanted to talk about the setup checklist. I apologize, some of this text is just template text. But what we want to do is get started with AI-assisted coding. And right now is a great time to do this because the end user costs have been dramatically reduced. So you can now code pretty much all day, depending on how intensely you're pinging. But yeah, pretty much all day long you can code for free using an AI-assisted coding agent. And it didn't used to be the case. You used to have to subscribe to some service to get that. but now you can do pretty well on your own with a free tier. And so it's really a good time for this, to learn about this. And just so that none of you end up paying for anything we do today, just make sure that you do not enter payment info at any stage. So if you are using your personal Google account, make sure that you are on free tier. It should not say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And don't give any kind of payment info to set up a bucket. Just use the free tier. All right. Then we're also going to talk a little bit about some of these things. So we're going to install VS Code, and I'm going to copy over that link for all of you. And I'll just copy over the slide link. I think that's really going to be the best way to go for this. Hang on a minute here. All right, this should be the slide link here. Let me know if that's not working for y'all. It should work because I did set it to anyone with the link, but sometimes those things can get messed up. So just let me know. But yeah, the first one is to install Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code, by the way, is a code editor, if you haven't heard of it. And I'm going to share my screen and actually show you. I have Visual Studio Code set up. It's just a really simple interface. There's on the left-hand panel a browser, and you can actually open a file or a project folder. And I have this project folder. I've called it Flashy. You'll see why I called it Flashy. That's going to be the name of my project today. You can make whatever you want, but I'm going to make this project Flashy. And it has a main console, and then on the right-hand sidebar, you can add tools, okay? And so, oh yeah, let's just reject some stuff here. I'm going to make a new content here. And I already have Gemini Code Assist set up, but we're going to get you set up too. So let's go back to our slides here. The first thing to do once you have VS Code installed is get the Code Assist extension, okay? And the way you're going to do that is in this left-hand panel here. You can see there's all these different extensions, and we're going to look for Gemini Code Assist. All right, and it's pretty much going to be the first thing that pops up. This extension that's been downloaded now a decent number of times. Let's see how many times. I'm curious. Okay, 1.5 million times. So yeah, you're gonna get on that and click install. Okay, and once you install, it should show up on the left-hand toolbar. I have mine on the right-hand side here. You can enable that by just using the settings here, I think is how you do it. Maybe clicking here and dragging it over. But yeah, that's the second step. And then the third step is going to be to install what we call GitHub Desktop, okay? So let me install GitHub Desktop, and I'll show you. Or let me go to GitHub Desktop. All right, let's check it out here. All right, I have a lot of things here. We're gonna, let's see. We're gonna add an existing repository. Maybe that's what we need to do. I'm gonna use this Flashy file that I came up with. I think that should work. We'll come back to this in a minute too. All right. It's not quite working for me yet, but it should work for you. I'm just having some troubles with my GitHub desktop. But yeah, then we're ready to test. And so I'm going to actually do a test here for all of you live. And I want you to try this at home. And what you're going to do is you're just going to go into Gemini. You're going to want to turn on, well, you don't need to turn on the agent mode, but just know that this toggle here is for agent mode. And you can just type into this text box. So what we're going to start with is, please create a blank README file. Okay, just going to ask it to do that, and we'll turn on the agent so that it can build the README file. Let's see. All right, so it's thinking, and it wants me to allow it to write a file, so I'm going to do that. This is done. So now we have a blank README file here, and it looks like our code assist is working. So everybody, please see if you are able to do this, and send me a chat message if you were able to do it. Okay, so Mutation says, is there a GitHub desktop for Linux? You know, honestly, I don't think the GitHub desktop app is going to be super necessary here. So don't worry about the GitHub desktop step. Just go straight into this code editor, because this is going to be the main important thing. But good question. I think you can get it for Linux. Trying to get some music going here. Let me know if you can still hear me okay with that music. It might be a little loud, I'm not sure. But I can turn it up or down. All right, folks, what do we think? Has anyone been able to execute this in their terminal? Just let me know. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you could do it. Okay, great. So, and I see another one from Ecolito. Thanks for confirming with me here. All right, so let's go back to our setup here. Let me tell you a little bit about AI as a pair programmer. So AI, you know, specifically Gemini here, can help, but AI in general can help with boilerplates, debugging, explanations, but there's still a need for someone to actually be in the driver's seat, quote unquote, and direct things. Someone who knows what's going on. So that's your job, really. And the best use cases here are going to be for, number one, generating starter code. Number two, asking for explanations for a code base that you've never read. How to use this? What commands do I pass to CLI? And then also refactoring. So if you need to refactor, I've found it to be really, really helpful for that. Let's say you need to merge two files together and eliminate redundant functions. And auto-generating tests and doc strings can also be good. So we will take a look at those. And I wanted to point out as well the quotas that exist for Gemini Code Assist, okay? And so there is a 1 million token context window in Gemini Code Assist. For reference, that can be as much as, you know, let's say like chapters of a book. So it's a lot of information. And that's just how much a single prompt can process as input, okay? So it really helps you to basically fit as much of your code base into the context of the model as possible, which is really helpful. And the requests, as far as the quotas go for agent mode, are rate limited, so you can only put a certain amount, but they're rate limited by minute and by day. So I think we're not going to probably use up nearly as many requests as we do have, but you get 60 requests per minute. So that means you could make one request every second. I don't know who is doing that, but not me. And then you can do up to 1,000 requests per day. So if we did, let's say we did a request every 10 seconds. So we did 6 requests per minute. That's 6 times 60 is 360. Actually, let's just ask Gemini in non-agent mode. Oh, we can do new chat. If I do a request every 10 seconds, how many hours until I've hit 1,000 requests? No agent mode, just curious. Okay, so if you did a request every 10 seconds, which is, I think, probably unrealistic, it would still take you almost 3 hours to hit the rate limit. So I think if you did maybe 2 requests per minute, you would be able to code all day long with this rate. Okay, so it's a pretty expansive rate limit for the free tier. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide then, which is about how to prompt effectively. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some tips that come from the Google website itself, where they recommend some stuff for how to work with Gemini. Say use natural language, so it means, talk in a way that is normal. Don't feel like you have to invent new ways of communicating in order to prompt the language model. Be clear and concise though, so be very direct in what you want the model to do. And it says provide context, so give as much information as possible around the problem. Use specific and relevant keywords, and break down complex tasks into separate prompts. So this one's really important. And I'll add a few here too. One of them, which is make sure to plan first. So build a plan and definitely use project-specific instructions and context. Right, so that's the Gemini.md that they're talking about in this screenshot that I took here. All right. And there's another thing in this screenshot that I'll mention, which is the second bullet point here. Extend the agent's abilities by adding new MCP servers. Has anyone in the chat used an MCP server, or have you heard of an MCP server before? They're pretty new. I mean, they're not super new, but they're getting more and more popular over time. Okay, Lily says no, and so does Nicolito. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a good thing to practice today. All right, so in order to practice it, okay, I'm gonna bring you to github.com. So everybody make sure you're signed in to github.com. All right, let's see, I'm gonna go on my test server because I have a test account that I use sometimes. All right, so I have signed in to my GitHub. This is an important step to do before we get to MCP. All right, so you're going to go to your settings. Share my screen so you can see. And you're going to, in this settings, where I just clicked on settings in the top right, you're going to look at, let's see, I think it's, I think it's passwords and authentication. So let's click here. Okay, no, it's not actually. It might be in developer settings, which is the bottom one. Yeah, it is. So I'll put a link to this. It's kind of tricky to find. You're going to want to go to this link here, github.com/settings/apps. You're going to want to click on personal access tokens, and specifically the classic tokens here, okay? And you're going to want to click on generate a new classic token. And you're going to want to give it basically full access. So you're just going to want to check off all of these boxes here. And I actually recommend that you create a new GitHub account, just like I'm doing here. Because if you do this without creating if you do this on your existing one and you're not practiced, it has the ability to mess with a lot of your repository. So then you're going to click generate token, and it's going to hopefully give you a token. Oh, I'll just call this Gemini. There's probably a few things actually that we could not check off. If you wanted to get rid of some of these, let's see, get rid of these. I guess we don't need Copilot or code spaces. We can maybe unflag delete repositories so that none of your repositories get deleted accidentally. All right, let's generate the token. And here's the token. So I'm just going to copy this token, and I'm going to delete this one because I don't want anyone using that one. But we'll use this as a dummy token for the rest of the workshop. Okay, so hopefully you all could see that go down. Actually, it seems a little bit, it's okay, the resolution, but let me see if I can shrink it down a little bit for you. All right, hopefully that's a little bit easier to see. So yeah, I'll paste a link to that tokens page. And let me know once you've created a token, if you can, in the chat, or if you had any trouble making a token, because this is kind of an important part. Oh my gosh, I actually realized that I just deleted my old token out of my clipboard. So I'm gonna try this again. Just check off repo. I'm not sure we need anything else actually. But like I said, it might be good if you're doing this for the first time. It might be good to do this in a separate GitHub account. I'm going to paste this test token. Don't use this token because it won't work for anything. But I'm just pasting it so that you have an idea of what it'll look like. Our Real Stranger says, heard of it, don't know what it does or what it is. Are you talking about the personal access token or the MCP? Because right now we're looking at the personal access token, trying to get a personal access token for GitHub. But our end goal is to get on an MCP. Okay, awesome. A few people are getting tokens. Way to go, Lily, Priscilla, and Kalito. Awesome work. And that means we can now get to our step where we add this token and we add an MCP server to Gemini Code Assist. So you're going to do the following, okay, command. I've pasted it in the chat, and it's up here on the slides too. And what this command is going to do, you're going to do this in terminal, okay? So if any of you have trouble with terminal or you're not sure how to do that, let me know, because I can pull it up live. But you're going to type mkdir -p. What that's going to do is create a new directory, okay, called .gemini. And you might remember back to our old slide, previous slide, the way we extend the agent to have MCP servers is we're going to create a settings.json file under this .gemini directory. And then the double ampersand means do something else too. And what we're asking it to do is echo, which means we want to write this into a file here. And we're specifically going to alter the MCP servers variable to include this new MCP server, which is a GitHub one. And this MCP server is actually hosted by GitHub itself. That's why we have this at model context protocol /server GitHub. So we don't have to host it ourselves. And it's a server that we can use for free. And then we also pass this environmental variable, which is the personal access token. And instead of the word your token there, you're going to want to type in your version of this. Okay, so whatever your token is, just put that in for the words your token. So I'll do that too. All right, so I just did it with my token. Yeah, Moose Move. So you said we add the command in our terminal? Yes. So let me show you how to do that, because I guess it's not exactly clear if I don't do it by myself. But you're gonna want to, let me share my screen here. You're gonna want to open up a terminal. So you can either type the word terminal into your Mac, or you can use command line, command prompt in Windows. And you're just going to paste that command that I sent in the chat. But make sure that you paste this one. Okay. I'm not actually going to do that command, but you would just hit enter here. And you could actually go to this spot here where it says your token, and you could just delete that part there and just type in what you want there. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, great. Awesome. Glad it makes sense. So let me show you what it should look like then once you have this done. I'm going to share my VS Code again. And we'll make a new chat window. And you can actually type up here, or actually you can type up in your, I'm going to type Control or Command Shift P. So you're gonna type that, and then you're gonna type developer reload window, okay? And that's gonna reload your VS Code window. You saw it kind of restart, right? I'll do it again so you can see again. Developer reload window. Okay. And for me, Gemini Code Assist is here. It should pop up for you too, or you'll see it somewhere. And what this is doing is it's letting Gemini update its settings so that it allows for that GitHub MCP. And I'm going to do a test. So the test I'm going to try, I'm going to try on my agent. The test I'm going to try is, please tell me what the current repositories are on the proper S GitHub account, which is my GitHub account. Gemini is working through that. It's going to, hopefully it'll notice that it needs to use the GitHub MCP. Okay, so it did. It noticed it needed to use search repositories. And I'm going to accept that. You could also drop down and say, always accept this. But I like to manually approve, and I recommend that you do too. So now it's searching, and let's see. Okay, look, these are all of the workshops and different projects that I've done. So you can see them. All right, and now I'm gonna say, how can I create a new repository called Flashy and upload the current project folder files there. All right, so first I'm going to accept it, allow it to create the new repository. And here's the command to run. It's just working through some stuff here. Oh, right, we got to do this. Okay. So now it's time for us to do something. So let me follow these steps here. I'll paste these steps if you run into the same error on your side. All right. So try that. Any questions so far? Was everyone able to get the MCP up and running? At least to list the repositories. All right, it looks like that worked. Lily asks, could I put the mkdir stuff in the VS Code terminal too? Yes, you can. So you can just add a new terminal at the bottom here, if you have one, go ahead and paste it in here too. That's totally okay. All right, and said, yes, sir, the MCP works. So that's awesome. Great. And so I just made a new repository, I hope. We'll see if it worked. Let's go to that website and see if it actually did upload. Okay. So have a look at this, everyone. I'll show you. Here's the website. So it looks like it worked. What's my last prompt in the Gemini chat? Great question. So the last prompt that I did, it was pretty far up. And you can create a repository with whatever you want. So I'm just going to create this project idea that I have called Flashy. But you're welcome to create whatever you'd like. So I'll paste it in the chat, what I did. Okay, and I just kind of troubleshooted, got through, had to do these steps to add an SSH key. I forgot that I don't have it set up for this computer, so I needed to make sure that the SSH was there so it had permission to access my account. But now it's good to go. So there's one last slide I wanted to show you all, besides the MCP server, and that's iteration and modern dev flow, okay? So if we can, I think we'll be able to get to some of these concepts, if not all of them. But once you've coded a feature with Gemini, you want to make sure it works locally, but then you want to test it. And the way you do that is primarily through unit tests, where you're going to test specific functionalities of the application and make sure that they work. Okay, and then after that, we're going to learn a little bit about GitHub Actions so that we can run these tests every time we push a new change. Okay, and if the debug fails, then we can fix it and recommit and just keep going. So that we always have a version that we know works, okay? And this is especially important with AI-assisted programming because, you know, the AI assistant can actually break things that used to work, right? So we want to do things in a very piecemeal way and verify that things are still working so that we don't commit some sort of change that messes up everything we just did. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to tell you all a little bit about the inspiration for my project idea here. So let me tell you, I'm kind of excited to share with you all. The inspiration is what they call Anki, this flashcard project. And what they do is, let's see if we can learn some more about it. So you can use it to learn languages, geography, medicine, anything you want to. And they give this user interface where you have buttons like, again, hard, good, easy. And those buttons, you know, you can see there's times set for them. So if you need the card again, it will show you it relatively quickly. But if you're already good on it, it'll tell you, like, I'll show you this soon, you know, less than 10 minutes, I would say. And then easy, it won't show you for a really long time. So you can kind of focus on the flashcards that you still need to learn. Let's see if you can click learn more. Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff here. And I think Mary actually on the stream this morning, she mentioned she wanted to practice violin. So it seems like this could be a good thing. But yeah, have you all heard of this tool, Anki? Anyone used it before? Tried to use it before? I've used it to learn French. Cool. So yeah, what I am envisioning for today is kind of, I'm going to try and build a clone of this project. I'm going to make it a web app actually. So usually it's a desktop app or a mobile app, and so it's going to require some special tooling. I'm thinking that I'm going to have it host the cards locally on the person's computer. So you upload your cards and you can go from there. And yeah, I'll probably design it as a Flask app. So you have to choose a framework of how you're going to build your app. So I'm going to use the Flask framework, and we'll get into all of this stuff soon. You all are welcome to follow along with this demo and just kind of help me troubleshoot things when they go wrong. You're welcome to submit a pull request to this repository I sent in the chat if you want to improve the app and suggest a change. You're also welcome to work on your own project. So if you have an idea that you've always wanted to build, please feel free to work on that instead of this flashy project. But yeah, I'll just probably get started now. So what I'm going to do is start a new chat. And I'm going to try and build this Gemini.md file, okay, to give specific context and instructions. So I'm going to say, please create a Gemini.md file for this project. It is a project called Flashy. Which will be similar to the popular flashcard app. Actually, let's keep that out of there. I feel like that's maybe a little bit copying their work. I don't want to copy their work, but it is a project called Flashy, which will be an interactive flashcard app with spaced repetition. It lets the user upload flashcards in a CSV format, and then it presents the questions in a flashcard format, allows them to select from easy, medium, and hard, or hard, and maybe like again could be another option. What questions do you have for me about, what clarifying questions do you have for me about how we will build this app? So this part is really important, this last part, and I'm going to share that in the chat, because this is going to help us to actually plan out the project. Okay, and I'm going to turn off the agent for now, because I don't really want the agent, I just want the prompting for now. Okay, I guess that didn't really work. I guess it still did it, but it has some questions here for me, and I'm going to try and answer these questions. So the first question is technologies app. What programming language and frameworks? So I'm going to say, here are the answers to your questions. Okay, I'm going to start with 1. technology stack. What programming language, frameworks, and libraries are you planning to use for the front end and back end? I'm going to say for this project, I plan to use Python programming language, the Flask framework, but I'm not sure what libraries I will use yet exactly. I know that I'll use PyTest to build tests. So this is a really good library, PyTest, for generating tests in an efficient way. I know that I'll use Flask library, of course, to build the Flask project. And you suggest some other possible libraries that we might need for me to approve. Okay, so it can suggest some other things. In fact, I'll probably spend at least 10 minutes going back and forth with the model here, asking questions before we get started. And so number 2 is CSV format. What will be the expected column structure for the CSV files? And it says, will it be simple question answer format? Okay, so we'll say yes. Let's just start with yes. The CSV file will be a simple question, answer format. There will be no other fields. And then here's a few other questions. Spaced repetition algorithm. Do you have a specific spaced repetition algorithm in mind, e.g. a simplified version of SM2? I don't have any algorithm in mind specifically, but please make sure to cite whichever algorithm you end up using, just so that we can cite the algorithm. Usually it's good to cite any algorithms that you might encounter because they're not technically your intellectual property. Okay, data persistence. Where will the user's flashcards and their review progress be stored? And I think I said this, but originally I want to try doing this locally in the browser. I'm thinking this could be stored locally as local storage in the browser. And we can always change that, right? Like we could add a feature where we put a database up. But for now, I kind of just want to keep it local to the browser to keep things simple. And I'm going to say, please ask me clarifying questions as to what information should be stored locally. And we could say, and what information should be hard-coded into the app. And then let's see, number 5 here, user interface. Do you have a design or a wireframe for how the flashcard interface should look or feel? Are there any specific URL libraries that you'd like to use? I would say no specific design. Actually, let's be a little specific here. So minimal look should have, let's say it should have a minimal clean look. It should have a light and dark mode. It should have a button in the corner to let the user upload new decks. Have a drop down to select from existing decks. with an option to edit, add, or delete. Or add, let's just say with an option to add or delete decks. So let's just maybe say it should have a drop down to select from existing decks and an option to add or delete text. The default deck. That's a few basic questions. And show the answer first. Then when the user clicks, it should show the question first, show the answer, and the 4 buttons so that the user can choose which one corresponds based on whether they got it right or not. Please ask any clarifying questions you have about the UI. Okay, I'm almost treating this like a manager, so I'm asking it. Ask me, clarify, please clarify, because I want to make sure that you get this right. Okay? Let's say 6 now. User accounts. Let's say this will be a single user application. The user's decks can be stored in browser cache / locally. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is just to get started here. And I just don't think that these are going to be huge files, these CSVs. Now, once you get into thousands of cards and things like that, you might want to start doing some database management. But for now, I think this will be okay. And I want to say, please update the Gemini. And here I'm going to use an ampersand to reference this file that I want to update. With these answers, in order to flesh out the project requirements. Add as many new clarifying questions as you can think of. Let's just say add any new. Follow-up questions. And your grammar doesn't actually have to be perfect, because all these models are kind of trained to handle that, but you want to be as clear as you can. All right, let's now say, all right, so we have some more clarifying questions. As it says, oh, these are actually the answers. Okay, and let's see let's just make sure that these look right to us. So says technology stack will be built with Python, a Flask framework, vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS, testing, we don't apply test. And it suggests some libraries. Yeah, these are good ideas. Flask course is cross-origin resource sharing, which we'll use if we have the front end and the back end separately. Pandas, a powerful library for data manipulation. That's right. We can use that for sure. CSV format. So you'll have a simple 2-column structure. Spatial repetition algorithm. Yeah, we'll use SM2 algorithm. Sure. Data persistence. All user data is stored locally. Application will come with a hard-coded default deck. It's also good to store. I mean, if you can get away with storing something locally that's small, And it, it can sometimes be useful because, maybe it's private information. In this case, I think it's just convenient for us. But yeah, eventually you might want to move to a more centralized database. Here's some questions, okay? Here's a follow-up question. What specific information should we store for each card? Okay. Tell it to store the question, answer, next review date. Yeah, it looks good to do all that. And then here UI will be minimal, select our toggle mode, drop-down menu, option to upload a view deck. Follow-up questions for the card flip. I guess this is for your first follow-up question. Other follow-up questions. Please use a simple show hide animation. I don't really want to be dealing with the flipping over thing yet. Maybe we can get into that later. It says, use a plus minus buttons. Let's say use plus minus buttons for adding or removing text. And I'll say, I'm just going to put at the top of this prompt. Usually it's good to put the instruction at the top. Please update the Gemini through project instructions according to these answers to the follow-up questions. All right, it failed on some things, I guess. I'm just going to manually copy these in and save. Okay. And it's even suggesting some prompts for me to try. So I might actually do that. I like this idea. And I'm going to turn on the agent this time. See, I did a new chat here. So rely on the project instructions. All right, let's give it a go. And yeah, how are you all doing with this? Were you able to create a Gemini.md? If you were, maybe let us know down there in the chat. How did it go for you? You can do that process, by the way, for a really long time. Just asking questions, seeing what is generated, things like that. Just building out some of these files in the static. Okay, great. Thanks, Lily. Yeah, let's code together then. Let's see if I can track my code assist limits. I'm not sure if it's possible. There's a really great docs, so I'm gonna paste the docs as well if you want to look at the docs for Code Assist. All right, still working. It probably hit a bit of a rate limit, so it just needs a minute to continue. Let's see what it's built so far. So static here is going to be different static resources that the front end has. So for instance, it has access to this CSS, which has just some styling information about the themes, the flashcard elements, things like that. Pretty cool. And then this resource here is the JavaScript resource. So it looks like it's able to, oh yeah, here it is, the default deck that I asked for. Remember, I asked for a default deck. So it's some pretty easy questions. What is the capital of France? I think most people know that that's Paris. So this is really cool too. And it's given an index.html. It does seem like it's getting hung up a little bit though. I wonder if I can just maybe stop this for now. Just say, please continue. Okay, maybe that did actually help. Sometimes you have to restart these. Especially on longer time scope tasks like this. Yeah, I will say things are basically generating how I would expect. We have these buttons here. They have these different data rating categories. And then I bet if we go to our static resources and we look at, okay, this is probably in our JavaScript. Yeah, you can see the data ratings are here. So it gets the, it can switch these ratings. It's interesting that it, oh, I maybe shouldn't have done that. Okay, I don't know why I just deleted this. Let's undo that. Yeah, I'm gonna put this back. I don't know why I decided to delete the Gemini.md. Let's put that back for a minute manually. Okay, that's pretty funny. Well, maybe it feels like it's done already. I'll be the judge of that though. So let's see. I'm gonna try to open up the project so far and just give it a test. See what we've been able to implement here. Okay. All right. So here's our app, I guess, so far. This is the default card deck. I guess you could add. Yeah, that does trigger a file system for me. I think if I click minus, I might delete this original default package. So I don't want that. Let's see if the dark mode works. Okay, so dark mode works too. And it says, what is capital France? And I'm going to say, I think it's Paris. So I click reveal answer. And it does reveal Paris. Okay, so we can say, let's say that was easy. Oh my gosh, okay, so the flipping animation showed me the answer already. That's not very good. So look, I click reveal answer is 4, right? So I'll say that was really hard. So it tells me again, but you see, it shows the back of the card, so I already know what it is. I know this is mitochondria because it showed that to me already. All right, this is gonna need a little bit of work. So yeah, let's push this for now though, to our repository. And we have some big progress though so far, at least, which is cool. So let's do a push. Please push these changes that you've made to the repository. And maybe I'll say create a separate branch that I can merge into the main one. And you might ask, why do that, right? It's also a pretty simple project. But one of the main reasons why is because we can have multiple of us working on these projects at the same time. So if you all wanted to make your own, pull requests to this project, and if you all have ideas for our flashy app, you can make your own branch and then try to do a pull request. Okay, so it suggested this comment here. This comment, it says feat, which is usually used when you add a new feature. So that's really good. And I approved it because it said that, and then it gave this brief intro, brief comment, which is initial implementation of the flashcard application, which is what it is. So now it's going to make this push. And let's have a look at what happened here. So if we go to GitHub, now you'll see, zoom in a little bit here. You see that the flashy app has, let me put this on a better screen. This now has a new feature that was pushed. So we can actually create the pull request here. And we can merge. It says no conflicts with the base branch, so we can merge our pull request. Okay, so I highly recommend, now that the base code is up and running, for you all to try and implement your own ideas here. I guess we could have eliminated this Gemini.md file. I guess we didn't really need to push that to their main repository, but I guess it would be good for us all to have that context with us. But yeah, it seems to be working okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this right now. And yeah, what questions do you all have so far? We're going to keep working on this project together. But I just want to stop here for a minute because we've made quite a bit of progress spinning up our app. Does anyone have any questions? Were you able to work on your idea, or maybe build your own flashcards? Let's see if it created a README. Yeah, I want to create a README now. Actually, we'll wait. Yeah, let's just say describing the project in broad strokes. I would like to have that. And then I'm going to also modify the Gemini.md file. Let's see, yeah, that all looks good. And it's going to actually commit those for me, those changes. I don't think we need a separate branch here. Yeah, we'll just use the same branch as before. Okay, so now with the Gemini.md file, I'm going to modify this. So please modify the Gemini.md file to include, let's just say, to include progress updates. Document what has happened in the development of this project so far. Here are my notes, which you should incorporate. So I'm going to ask it to incorporate some of these notes. And I'm gonna put this in the chat as well as a prompt so you all can try it out on your own. I'm gonna tell it exactly what I did. I've tested it out by clicking on index.html, which did render the flashcard app. Notice that the animation of the cards flipping reveals the answer to the user when transitioning to a new card. And that can't happen. We'll need to implement a fix. And then I'll also say a few other things that I noticed. So one thing is I want the buttons to actually go easy, in the order easy, medium, hard, again. Not again, hard, medium, easy. I just think that it makes a little bit more sense that way. Also add color coding to these buttons, so that the user can more clearly distinguish between them. And then I'll also say, let's see, what other things? Did anyone notice anything else that we might want to try and fix here? It looked like the spaced repetition feature was working, because when I clicked again, it did show me the card again. So that was really good. Maybe I'll have it display the interval in units of minutes or days, or seconds, minutes, or days. Underneath each of the difficulty buttons, so that the user has an idea of what kind of interval to expect for the card to return. And yeah, what else? I mean, we didn't test on a custom one, so to make a .csv file that we can try and upload. To verify that we can add a new deck. I'll say don't allow the user to delete the default deck. I think those are enough comments for this next round of iteration. See what it does with this. All right, so it just revised this Gemini file. Let's see what it did. I should have, yeah, progress. So it said basic structure, application is readable and functional, next steps. Here's the next steps here. User should not be able to delete the default deck. Yeah, I got all of my ideas basically here. So I think now it's going to actually try and implement some of these changes that I requested. I'm going to go ahead and allow it to make these changes to the JavaScript file. Yeah, how's everybody else doing with this Gemini tool? What are some things that stand out to you? Anything cool? Said, I think it can ask you follow-up questions and you have to meet some criteria with your responses. I didn't really know. That's a pretty interesting tool. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to do that. And I don't know if you all noticed, but I hit a rate limit for my Gemini Pro. So now I'm on Gemini Flash. But I find that both of them actually work pretty well for coding. I'll show you this website. That I use sometimes. Okay, let me show this to you all. And I'm going to send you the link as well. Just while our agent is working on our tasks here. So this is a website called LiveBench. And I use it sometimes to assess which models are best for different tasks. And you can see that for agentic coding, which is what we're doing right now, the scores for Gemini 2.5 Pro are actually very comparable with Gemini 2.5 Flash. So you don't need to have Pro in order to do well at agentic coding. Okay, so it looks like it's run. And let me go back to VS Code to show you all what we have. So I'm gonna commit these changes. I probably should test them before I commit them, but I just kind of expect that it's going to be at least a little bit better than last time. But yeah, I really should probably test them before we go. But let's see if this is any better. I'm gonna also like delete my browser cache, because if I keep that on, what's going to happen then is I'm just going to delete all my browsing history for the last hour, because then it will, you can see what it says now. If I just try to get this going. You can see it says no cards for you to review. And that's because, well, I did the cards already for today. So hopefully if I refresh this now, yeah, okay. So I cleared my browser history, so now we can see. And let's see, it revealed the answer. Okay, so it gives me these colors now: easy, medium, hard, and again. That's really good. So I'm gonna say that this was hard for me. All right, what is the capital of France? Paris. Easy now. All right, it's actually admittedly very hard for me to see the answer now. But I could honestly probably even. All right, let's see, I'll make it easy. Yeah, it's pretty impossible to see the answer now. I think it just moves way too fast. So I'm gonna call that a win for us. And we have our dark mode too. Interestingly, the dark mode doesn't show the coloring. I'm not sure if we should change that or not. What do you all think? I kind of like it like this. We could give it colors as well for dark mode. And I'm going to test. I'm going to actually click add, and I'm going to actually try the test card and see if the test cards work. So it's called testdeck.csv. So I'm just going to upload it now. Okay, so it did upload. So this is hello world. Hello world. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So when you click on it, it actually flips over. I might wish to change that too. I guess it depends on what we want to focus on. Let's test the minus as well. Okay, so I click minus, yeah, it deletes that. Now we only have default. All right, interesting. So we have something good here so far, I think. What do you all think? What should we add as features here? What would be a good direction to take this in? Oh, a timer. Right on. I like that idea, Lily, to put a timer there. Yeah, so let's try that out. So great suggestion. Let me add that in. All right, so let's add the timer in. But first I'm going to say, I just tested the features and they all performed well. Please update the Gemini.md project instructions to reflect all of our progress and any updates that have occurred with any outdated information. And then I'll probably also ask it to modify the README, because the README is probably out of date now too. and we'll update readme.md. All right, so now we're going to add one last feature, which Lily suggested here. So I would like you to now implement another feature. The feature will be a timer that will count down for, let's say, 10 seconds. If the time on the timer expires, the card should automatically sort to the, or let's say if the timer expires and the user has not flipped the card over yet, by clicking the reveal card button, then the card should automatically sort to again. Since this means that the user clearly took too long and does not have this information strongly committed memory. Timer option should be optional such that the user can activate it or deactivate it at any time, even in the middle of that. And I'm going to say again, what clarifying questions do you have for me? Because I'm going to say, please update Gemini with this information. What clarifying questions do you have for me? All right, so it has a few questions for me, and this time it actually put them in the prompt window, which I appreciate. I don't really want to look at them in the markdown file. But the first question is UI placement. Where should the timer display be located on the screen? Please put the timer in the bottom right corner of the screen. And then I'll say, activation / deactivation. How should the timer? Okay, please make this a toggle switch that's just below the timer. Okay, let's just say, please make this a toggle switch. It should also be placed in the bottom right corner of the screen, just below the timer setup. Visual feedback. What kind of visual indication should the user see? Let's say add a numerical countdown and a progress bar. And let's just do numerical countdown. I think it would be kind of a lot to have both. And then timer reset. When should the timer reset? The timer should, good question, the timer should reset only when a new card is located. Let's just say when a new should reset when a new card is presented. So even if the time has not expired on an old card. The user has already flipped it over, then the timer can be paused. It will then reset and immediately begin counting down once a new card is given. All right, hopefully that's clear enough. I hope so. Persistence. Should the timer's active/deactivated state be saving local storage? Let's say default. You know what? Let's just say yes. Please save the user's preference in local storage. That seems reasonable to me. Uh-oh. I think I just lost my audio here. Hang on. Can you all still hear me? Give me a shout out if you can still hear me. I'm going to try to run this website again. And I'm also going to clear the history, the browsing history again. So that it updates. And I'll show you all what it looks like. Okay. Thank you, Lily and Sarcastic and Fun. Yeah, I lost my AirPods. They died, so I have to try again. All right. And I think it will be this one right here. All right, let's try that. So, it says, what is the powerhouse of a cell? Classic trivia question, classic like middle school trivia. And let's enable a timer. Okay, so let's see if it actually, what happens if I just let the timer expire. Oh no, I don't know. All right, oh, it didn't actually work. Yeah, it doesn't look like it worked. Let's say that was again. And let's just reveal the answer. Put it in, sort it in the medium. Okay, no cards to review. Let's try adding up the test deck. Oh boy. I feel like this timer might have broken something in our code. That's not good. Let's see here. I'm just going to delete all the browsing data again. And try to refresh. All right, let's see if this works. All right, it's kind of working. There's some issues though. There's some very clear issues. And we're gonna have to address those before we commit our changes. So it's eagerly asking me if I want to commit these changes, and I'm kind of hesitant to because it doesn't look like it works properly. Okay, so I chose not to add this to Git just yet. And I'll say I noticed an issue with the script. Once the timer reaches 0, if the user hasn't made any selections, fill hard, easy, medium, hard again, then the timer simply restarts from 10 at 10 seconds and counts down again. This is not the desired functionality. I want the timer to reach 0 and immediately skip the card and advance to the next one. If there are no further cards, it should show them. It should show the card again. But let's if there are other cards in the deck, it should put the current card at the back of the pile, at the back of today's pile, so that the user has time to think and process. Okay, actually, I'm not sure if I want to immediately skip the card. And immediately, how do we say reveal the answer? I don't know if you had, Lily, if you had some ideas about how to implement this, because this timer functionality is pretty challenging, I'm realizing. I mean, what do we actually want this timer to do? So I think what it's doing is actually just sorting into the again pile, and then again shows it immediately again. And yeah, I just think that might not be quite what we want. Hey there, Yash, what's up? Thanks for joining. We're just building a little timer here, a timer feature for our code base. I almost kind of want it to, reach 0. When the timer reaches 0. Immediately reveal the answer. It should show one button next, maybe, below the answer. Once the user clicks that button, it should advance to the next card in the deck. Place the place the challenging card, the one for which the timer expired, immediately after the next card in the deck. That way the user can see the card soon after. If there are no other cards in the deck, or if, let's say, if the challenging card is the last card, if the challenging card is the last card in the deck, then let's say, then simply show the card again once the user clicks next. All right, so now what clarifying questions do you have about these changes? All right, so hopefully this is good. It's a little bit of a clear, more beefy, I guess, instruction set. Sonia Dipta, we're building a flashcard app. We're trying to learn a little bit about how to do this with Gemini Code Assist. And yeah, pin the comment on description, what are you building? I can definitely look into that. I'm not sure actually how to edit the description. Let me do that right now. That's a really good suggestion. All right, I've added a little description to our YouTube video. That's a really good idea. And actually, we are building on an open source platform right now. So yeah, you can feel free to edit this project. I'll show you, actually I'll send the link to it. I just called it Flashy. Just gave it a little name here. All right, now before we type this git add command, I'm going to double check and I'm going to make sure that this app works. So let me refresh the browser. Got to delete the browsing history. I got to refresh the screen. I'll show you all what it looks like. So let's see if this works. So now we're going to enable the timer. See if it counts down properly. Okay, so it did show it. And now we click next. And here's the powerhouse of the cell. Let's say that we get this right. We know that it's mitochondria. And now showing 2 plus 2 again. Okay, this is great. This is exactly what we want. All right. Yes, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And Lily, yes. So I think, most of the time when you have an issue like this one, it's actually us not really giving a clear instruction. So that's why it can be helpful for the project to be built by asking clarifying questions, because the clarifying questions can then give you an idea of what the model is interpreting this as, and make sure you're on the same page as the model, right? So we have this app now, and it looks like it's working. So I'm going to push these changes to the project. We're running a bit short on time, so we might not get to everything. I know I wanted to implement some testing procedures and things like that. We will do some of those. Okay, so it's done with this task. Interesting, it just tells me that this is a prompt you can try. Explain this. That's funny. That's okay. I do not need to have you explain this, but thank you, Gemini. All right, let's go back to our project then. And I'm gonna probably merge this pull request in. So I have the branch for the initial flashcard app. It's been adapted now so that we have this here. I'm new to the program, but I'm trying to understand. Yeah, it can be a little bit challenging at first to understand these things, but you'll definitely get there. Is there anything in particular, Yusab, that you wanted to talk about here? Anything in particular that might have been causing you some troubles? Oh, I'm new to this agentic vibe coding thing, and the clarifying questions thing seems very helpful. Yeah, to me, the things that have been most helpful are A, asking clarifying questions, and B, making feature changes, pushing them frequently to GitHub. If you do not push frequently to GitHub, it's going to be a bad time for you because it's going to delete things. You saw that already once. We had our Gemini.md file just totally deleted out from under us. So you're going to want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you by frequently pushing new updates to GitHub. All right. And with the final amount of time that we have left, I just want to show you all one other trick that we didn't get to cover this as much as I wanted to because we only had it for an hour or two. But what I wanted to talk about was adding PyTest unit tests. So I'm just going to say, please suggest some PyTest unit tests that I could implement for this project. And what we're doing here is we're asking Gemini to conceive of some ways that it could test that none of the functionality has broken from the last time that we updated it. So here's one: parses CSV comment into a list of dictionaries. So we could have our, for example, some basic test cards. Tests that they get parsed into a card object, because that would be important. Tests that empty lines within the CSV content are gracefully ignored. Yeah, so we definitely would want that if there's an empty line. Tests that lines with incorrect number of columns are skipped or handled. Tests that leading, trailing, white space, and question answer fields is trimmed. So let's do this. Let's say, great. Please integrate these tests into the project. Also add a requirements.txt. And when I say add a requirements.txt file, I think it's going to know what I mean by that. That's why I didn't really spend too much time worrying about it. But basically, I'm asking it to show me a little bit of, to write down the main libraries used. It's going to also probably be in Gemini.md somewhere. Yeah, a little bit, not really that much. Yeah. And I don't think we really have time to try out some of these tests and to put them in GitHub Actions, but that could be for another day. I just wanted to use this time to show you all what these agentic coding tools can do. And just to keep this in mind, we built this totally free. We didn't pay for anything at all, and we just built this cool app. So highly recommend you all to try this out. Yeah, well, thanks everyone. And feel free to make a pull request if you want to our flashcard app, if you want to try and take it further. Or branch off of it, or fork the project and make it your own. But yeah, thank you. And one thing I wanted to just make sure that you all had, this is our feedback form. So please fill that out and let MLH know that you liked this stream. If you did like it, I hope you did. It's really, really helpful to us because it tells us, what are you all interested in seeing for Global Hack Week. This is really designed to be for you all, right? And what you want to learn about. So, and what you want to learn together. So definitely fill that out and we will read your comments and your feedback. All right, so we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to see if I can plug the next stream. I'm sure that there's another stream coming up. Let me have a look here. It looks like the next stream is going to be Wei's Wikipedia Races mini event. So that's actually going to take place in Discord, but I'll put the link in the chat. So go hang out with Wei. Try some Wikipedia racing. I think it'll be really fun. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.